welcome to another week of Small Biz Evolution. I'm Kak Angofe. E-commerce is becoming a game changer for SMEs as they are increasingly carving out their presence in a competitive digital landscape. Joining me to unpack how SMEs are taking up the space in the e-commerce market is Luncedo Mtwentwe, Managing Director at Vantage Advisory. Luncedo, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
The African Continental Free Trade Area connects over 1.3 billion people with the objective of reducing trade barriers across the continent. How can SMEs use this opportunity to grow their e-commerce presence and access untapped markets?
Yeah, talking about untapped market, we're living in an interesting era where Africans are really starting to work together and try to really find a way in terms of how do we break down some of the trade barriers that have been there before, that have restricted SMEs to really have access. And that's what AfCFTA is about at the end of the day, is to really create that single market for goods and services where African businesses can trade with each other without having so much disadvantages therefore. So in 2025, I must say it is the time that we have to accelerate and implement AfCFTA as much as we can, especially with some of the trade tariffs that have been imposed and the global economy is actually shaking in relation to that. So SMEs have to truly understand what AfCFTA is about. That's step number one. And then number two, really find the platforms and the channels in terms of how they can start to export their goods to other African countries. And at the end of the day, all the policymakers have sat down, they've agreed that this is what, as Africa, will take us to the next era in terms of the economic growth. So SMEs have to really play that role, have to be proactive at the end of the day. No one is going to be pushing them, but the platform is there. The countries are open to do business. It's a matter of just implementation in relation to that. So it is quite an exciting era for SMEs, especially who are manufacturers and they want to export their goods across Africa.
And just continuing on that, Luncedo, in a market where larger players dominate, how would you suggest SMEs establish a strong presence in the e-commerce sector, strategically tapping into the dynamics of the South African market?
Interesting enough, talking about really the economy and how it is structured, I usually say there is a report that was once issued by the Competition Commission and articulates really the state or the structure of the South African economy and all different industries. And what you pick up from that report, it really articulates that most industries are dominated by the big companies. You'll find that 10% of the big companies are owning about 80% of the economy. And SMEs are left now with 10 or 20% of the market to fight with, which is similar again to this particular industry, particular sector, which is e-commerce. You find that it is heavily dominated by the big players. And I mean, Competition Commission as well has really done investigation around that to say, open up the economy, open up the market so that SMEs can come and play then. Now, for SMEs to really be able to play around that sector, I always say is that they have to find some of the niche market that the big players are not participating in. Then it becomes easier now for you as an SME to really have the market in relation to that. What is not majorly dominated by the big players? That you as an SME, you find that niche market, you execute on that. At the end of the day, you find that in the next 4 or 5 years, you're going to be doing extremely well.
And given the growing popularity of buy now, pay later services, let's talk about how SMEs can incorporate these payment methods into their digital marketplace to attract more customers. Yeah.
So what is interesting in relation to that? Look, in first world countries, they're using that heavily, North America, Europe, Asia. So in Africa, it hasn't really scaled as much as it has in other parts of the world. So it is an untapped opportunity in South Africa. And you'll see as well, usually if you want to see if something is moving fast, you'll see some of the retailers moving at it very fast. And most of the big retailers or JSE-listed entities have not yet moved into it that much. So it is an opportunity now for SMEs to really capitalize because they've got low overheads at the end of the day. So you can be able to really play around in terms of the systems that we have, play around in terms of the market that is already there, play around in terms of the efficiency as well. At the end of the day, as long as you are pushing the volumes and you create that market. So it is a huge untapped opportunity for some of the players that are playing in that space.
Luncedo, just briefly, let's look at what shifts you foresee in the digital space and how you'd suggest small businesses to position themselves to stay competitive.
So there's a report that was issued as well by McKinsey Global Institute, and it really highlighted some of the industries that are going to change the game in the next 10 and 20 years. And some of those top industries that are going to be dominating the economy globally, at the top list, it is e-commerce. All right. So it's one of those industries or sectors that is going to change the market altogether. So whoever currently that has a business and is not getting into the e-commerce side of things, in the next 10 years or 20 years, they're going to be left behind. Cybersecurity as well is one of those industries that is going to be dominating the sectors as well. So whoever that is within e-commerce, whoever that is within cybersecurity, wherever that is within the software, cloud, those are the industries that are going to be dominating the economy in the next 10 years. So whoever right now that is starting a business or is within that particular sector, they have to make sure that they invest heavily in terms of the digital infrastructure so that they're ready, because those are the economies or sectors or industries that are going to be really shifting the world in the next 10 years.
Well, I hope that we can continue drilling in these conversations more. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
That was Luncedo Mtwentwe, Managing Director at Vantage Advisory, unpacking how entrepreneurs are positioning themselves in the e-commerce space. Stay tuned for more on Business Day TV.